Hi, sixth grade. Ms. Garcia here to give a quick lesson overview of our lesson today, 9.1, Statistical Questions and Data. So today we talked about dot plots today. And sometimes you'll see them called line plots, but they can also be called dot plots. Okay, same difference. So we're going to take a look at this problem here and see how do we organize it into a dot plot so that we can read the information. So here our problem says, Miss Smith is a music teacher. She gave her students a 6-question quiz about famous composers. The list below shows the scores her students received on this quiz. So I know that these numbers represent the scores that the students got on that quiz that they took. Okay, so here it says to use the data on the above to make a line plot. Again, a line plot can also be a dot plot. Be sure you write numbers on the axis, label the axis, write a title, and use X's to represent the students. In our case, we're going to use dots, but you can use X's as well. Okay, so we're going to write numbers on the axis. We're going to label the axis. We're going to write a title and put the dot plot. So let's start with the dot plot first. I know that I'm going to use this number line here, and I only need numbers of my lowest data point and my highest data point. So as I look at my numbers here, as you can see, they're not in order, they're all mixed up. But I notice that my smallest number is 0, and my largest number seems to be 6. So my plot is only going to go from 0 to 6. So I'm going to start here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. Okay, so I have done one of our jobs. I've labeled the axis, which is good. Okay, we finished that. Now we're going to put the dots where they need to go. So for each piece of data that we have up here, we're going to put a dot above that number. So if I start with my smallest number, I'm going to see, so my smallest number is 0, and I only have one of them. So I'm going to put 1 dot. Okay. Then I look, how many ones do I have? I see 1, 1. And I'm going to cross them off as I go so that I don't get mixed up with my numbers, and I don't miss any. Then I look to see how many 2s do I have. I look through, I don't see any 2s, so I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to leave it blank. Then I go through and see how many 3s do I have. I have 1, 2, 3 3s. So I'm going to put 3 dots above my number line, above the 3. Then I look to see how many 4s do I have. I have 1, 2, only 2 4s. So 1, 2 dots above my 4. Then I'm going to look at how many 5s do I have. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 5s, so I'm going to put 3 dots above my 5. And my last number is 6. How many 6s do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put 5 dots above my number 6. Now remember, these dots represent the scores that they got on a 6-question quiz. The most you could have gotten was 6 out of 6. So always double check. You can count your numbers. How many numbers do you have up here? And make sure they correlate to your dots to make sure that you didn't miss any of the numbers or you didn't accidentally put too many dots. So now our dot plot is lined up and I've got every number accounted for. I still need to give a title to my dot plot. And your title just connects with what the dots represent. So for this one, this represents scores on music test. Okay, so that's what the dots represent, the scores that each student got on the music test. Okay. Then we have to label our axis down here. So what do these numbers down here, 0 through 6, what do those numbers represent? They represent the scores. Okay, you got a score of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. All right, now we've got all of our data and our information nice and organized. Now, how do we read that data? How do we answer questions from that data? Well, let's look at some of the questions that we have here. Alrighty, so, oops, sorry about that, zoomed in a little too much. All right, so one question we have here says, how many students scored exactly 3 points? How many students scored exactly 3 points? So I look over at my data. Remember, these dots represent student scores. So exactly 3 points, 3 students scored 3 points. So I would write my answer, 3 students. Okay. My next question asks, how many students scored higher than 3 points? How many students scored higher? So anything higher than 3. That does not include 3 itself because 3 is not higher than 3. So we're looking at who scored 4, 5, or 6. So how many students? So I would take each of these and add them together. So I have 5 here plus 3 makes 8 plus 2 more make 10. So here I'm going to, oh, and I just realized that we missed a piece of data right here. I missed a 6 from up here. So there should actually be one more dot. See, it's always good to double check to make sure you've got everything. So when I add up how many students scored higher than 3, I have 6 here instead of 5. I have 6 plus 3, that makes 9, plus 2 more makes 11. So that would be 11 students. Okay. Next question asks, how many students scored less than 3? How many scored less than 3 on this quiz? So again, this answer does not include the number 3 because 3 is not less than 3. So any student who scored less than 3 would be if you scored a 0, a 1, or a 2. So how many students scored less than a 3? 2 students. Okay. Then from there, we've got what score did the highest number of students receive? What score did the highest number of students receive? Okay, so that is looking at what we would call our peak. They're asking what was the peak? What was the highest number scored? So I look up over at my chart here and I see that the highest amount of high scores is 6 points. So 6 points was the highest number that students received. That was the highest score anybody received on the test.